This is the BrainChip Podcast. Hear from our thought leaders about neuromorphic computing, beneficial AI, and how BrainChip's Akida is pushing AI to the edge. This podcast is a place for investors, practitioners, and anyone interested in the future of AI.
Hi all, I'm Rob Telson, Vice President of Sales and Marketing at BrainChip. Welcome and thank you for joining our latest episode of our BrainChip podcast series. These events are structured to provide current and future investors and those interested in AI and the BrainChip technology a path to better understand who we are, what we are doing, and where we are going. If you have not listened to any of our podcasts, please go to our website, www.brainchip.com, go to our Learn tab, and select Podcasts. You can also listen to any of these podcasts on your favorite podcast platform, or please go to our YouTube channel at BrainChip Inc. and find all of our podcasts and additional media to take a look at and listen to. Today, we have the pleasure to have Philippe Kaz. Philippe is the co-founder and CEO of Topio Networks. Topio Networks has a community of 1.2 million professionals dedicated to making the business of connected things a reality. Philippe focuses on artificial intelligence, as well as big data and mobility and smart cities, and has authored or co-authored landscapes in artificial intelligence, as I said, big data and mobility with a focus on connected cars and the automated vehicles. Philippe, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I got to say, it's great to have you with us today. You have had the unique opportunity to take a good look at an industry that is evolving at an extremely rapid rate. And you have a great vantage point on AI at the edge and a great understanding of the companies driving technology at the edge. So Philippe, why don't you take a moment and provide our listeners with a bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, so my background, believe it or not, is in venture. I was a venture capitalist for the last 30 years. My first investment were in actually AI. At the time, it was called rule-based engines. I also made a lot of investment way back then in the 90s in anything that has to do with reportings, OLAP, and all those type of issues, and content management, and moving to natural language processing, RFID, and then now, I was looking at this entire areas of IoTs and edge computing. And the reason why I decided to start Topio is because I believe that we're faced with once in a lifetime, or maybe twice in a lifetime, in my case, opportunity of a revolution. The first revolution was the revolution of the internet. And if you look at it, what it enabled software as a service, and it enabled cloud computing as well. So it enabled a computing paradigm as well as a new type of applications. And what you're seeing now is this objects being connected is that there is a new computing paradigm that is being formed around the edge, closer to the device. And then there is a new type of applications that are being created, developed, that are distributed in nature. So the first level of those applications would be an autonomous vehicle or a robot or a drone, right? Where you have a lot of computing power, a lot of data, a lot of computing power. That computing power is being done at the edge, for the edge, and completely focused in providing value directly where the data is being captured.
I totally agree with you. We are at a called a revolution, and as you've mentioned, there's only a couple of these that we'll see in our lifetime, and this one is I like to say we're at the tip of the iceberg. So hold on, because there's going to be a lot of ups and downs and swings all around as this revolution continues. But as you look at it, where are the greatest movements at the edge, and how does AI specifically address those movements?
You were part of our last conference, right? So it takes 3 to 5 days to talk about those things, right? So I'm going to make it so that we can talk about that in just a couple of minutes. But I would say there are two trends, and I'm going to start with the least exciting one, just because it's important to start with that to understand what's happening, right? So this first trend is what I call the emergence of microgrids. And microgrids are small instances of cloud computing that are located either on-premise, in factories, in store, or at a service provider location, very close to the edge, such as the telcos, the co-location partners like Equinix and Lumen. And with those microgrids, what's happening is you kind of basically now can start run application as if they were in the cloud, but they are run locally on-premise. With the same standard that you would use if you were using it at the cloud. And so because of that, you're able to decrease the cost of ownership of those applications, making the accessibility of those applications very, very easily. Think about being able in a business, right, to deploy application as if they were on your phone. Right. So that's what we're talking about, right? It's this ability to be able to deploy applications very quickly wherever they need to be deployed.
And you call these microgrids, right?
I mean, we call them edge servers. People are starting to use the term microgrids. Okay. I think it's a good term, right? Because we're talking about distributed apps, right? And distributed apps are around grid, but so it's a term that is being tested right now. I'm not saying it's going to be the term for the future, but it's a good term. The other big trend, right, is the trend that we've seen for the last 10, 15 years now. It's this ability, it's the power of connecting objects. In the past, right, data was gathered from objects and from machines. It has been done for a long time. There was an entire organization built around them, that were called organizational technologies. But those objects were not connected to IT, were not connected to the internet. What we're seeing now, and it started with IoT, is the fact that now those objects are being directly connected to the IT system and to the internet. And because of that, you have a massive amount of data that is being created and that is being harvested and needs to be processed somehow, somewhere. And initially with IoT, that data was sent to the cloud, and a lot of people started to develop applications based on that concept, and they realized that it was too expensive. And it was too expensive for many, many reasons: the cost of processing, the cost of networking, you name it. And so with the emergence of the edge, right, and connecting the IoT on the edge and creating a one smooth platform that goes from the device to the cloud, you now have a platform that is the first layer to drive that cost down to a point where the applications are going to be cost effective. In the same way we did for SaaS, right? I mean, initially, the SaaS companies were not profitable, but over time, as cloud became more and more efficient, the SaaS company became hugely profitable. So we're seeing the same thing here. And Edge is being built right now to enable those new applications, right, and capability to become very profitable. And so now, if you're talking about the role of AI, right, so for one human, you have hundreds of objects that need to be connected, right, and those objects collect a lot of data about themselves and about their surroundings. So you're talking about massive amount of data that need to be analyzed at the edge. That is right now not being analyzed at all. And there is no possible ways for humans to be able to make sense of that data. And so the need is the need for AI is the need to be able to harvest all that data that is being created, and that's what AI is for, right? So it's for analyzing of that data, making sense of that data. This is not the only technology that is required to make Edge a success, right? I mean, we can talk about that. There are many, many other technologies, but AI is a big piece of it.
Yeah, this is great, Philippe. And two things for our listeners I think you guys want to just hone in on. One, and he brought up, and I do like the term, I think it will stick, is microgrids. And the second one, though, that he addressed and we need to really focus on is the collection of data, the connectivity of data. From a business standpoint, it's always been determined what the business cost is to drive this going forward. So the fact that we're getting to this point where we can drive forward. Cost has been reduced, and the efficiency of the applications, the efficiency of the devices in order to drive this data moving forward is what's taking place. And that's what makes things very unique in this space when we talk about the edge. But, Philippe, one thing I want to understand is we talk about edge-based applications, but let's talk about edge-based applications for the industrial environment. What makes them so unique, and how does AI support the growth in these industrial applications?
When I'm telling people, right, is the following, is that with IT, right, we've been able to create software as a service application in Salesforce, like CRM, ERP,
right,
all those type of things, right? But if you look at the shop floor has not been optimized in terms of applications, right? And so what we're talking about at the store level in retail, in the factory, is building an application that is going to rationalize the shop floor the same way CRM has rationalized sales, right? And so that's what we're talking about. So it's huge, right? It's a big opportunity, and nothing has been done. Right now, we're in a place where all the application, all the data is stored in silo. And so what we need to do is we need to build that infrastructure for the data to flow back and forth, right? And be accessible and to flow. And then once you have that, the question is, what do you do with that data, right? And so, and think about the concept of a Russian dolls, right? You have the sensors, right? And then you have an object is made of sensors, and then machine is made of objects, and then a factory is made of machines. And so, basically at each step of the way, there is a need for understanding, from processing to do predictive maintenance, to do better allocation of resources when you process stuff, to do HR, like understanding what the employees are doing and helping them doing things well. So you have many set of application and many processes and many ways to understand the data and optimize the data. That's where AI comes from, right? So you're going to have AI at the device level, you're going to have AI at the object level, at the machine level, at the factory level, and all that AI are going to work together and in unison, right, at the same time to create that level of insight that is going to monetize by those new applications. So fairly exciting. Big opportunities, and a way to enable if you think about kind of what we're talking about here, it's how robots and humans are going to work together. So it's a massive amount of productivity increase of human. It's also a different type of skills that are going to be required for the human to work in those environments. So think about it this way, right? It's huge, and AI is going to be a big part of it.
That's for sure. And one of the things that we here at BrainChip, we're excited about, with Akida, is that we've started demonstrating tactile sensing and focusing on vibration. And you take that with, as one individual said on one of our podcasts in the past for our listeners, the 3 V's of vision, voice, and vibration. And if you can solve those problems at the edge and on devices, and especially in the industrial environment, then you're going to have a really great solution. And we're really excited about that. We see that based off of what we're doing with Akida now and how it's evolving, that it will go down that path and support a lot of those applications and create all that data that will then drive up in the stack, as you just mentioned.
Just to finish your thought, I mean, in the same way you have for autonomous vehicle, right? You have those 7 levels of going on to autonomy, right? From assisted driving to autonomous. You're going to have the same thing with machine, right? Is you're going to have this evolution, right? From, just where we are right now, which is basically no automation or very little automation, right? To a lot of automation, and AI is what's going to drive that.
That's right. And, you just kind of led into the next question. So thank you. So in the next 5 years, what do you feel are the largest growth areas for these AI edge-based applications in the automotive world? So let's focus on automotive, and let's take a look at where it is today and where do you think it's going?
for me, automotive is the bellwether of everything, right? So it's kind of the place where things are being developed, things are being worked on. So we look at automotive as kind of to understand where everything goes, right? And so take a step back, right? So what we're talking about here is objects that are, you're gathering information about themselves as well as the information around them, right? So the first thing you need to think about is you need to think about making sense of that data that is coming from the car, and then leveraging that data to do interesting things. So an example of that would be an interactive digital maps that would be updated in real time. So it's happening like it's happening today with stuff like Waze, but it's not real time, and it's not, the coverage is not as big as the one we could be if all the cars were equipped with an ability to gather information, right? Predictive maintenance is another place where there is a lot of stuff happening in the automotive industry today, right? And there are plenty of other applications that will leverage data coming from the car in the next 3 to 5 years. I mean, you name it, right? It's just amazing, and that those applications will require AI. And then the second piece is enabling the car to move in the real world. And you do that through either assisted driving or autonomously. I mean, I'm always surprised by how fast the autonomous car and the autonomous truck are making progress, right? So every time that I'm making a prediction around that, I'm always wrong. I mean, I would have never thought in 2000 that we would see like almost close to autonomous car now, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's
right. So things are, moving fast, and I would think that assisted driving is probably where things are for the car, and autonomous driving is where things are for the trucks. And the reason is because of the cost saving, right? There is not enough cost saving yet in the autonomous car to justify the cost of an autonomous car for the end user. Whereas with the saving in term of and the lack also of drivers, right? Of the fact that there are not enough drivers for all the requirements in terms of trucks, there is a need for completely autonomous trucks. So I think that you will see autonomous truck faster than autonomous car if the infrastructure of is there, right? Because right now you need a connection, you need broadband connection to run trucks autonomously, and you don't have broadband connection in a rural area. So you need that, right? So we're driving the technology curve in automotive. We're seeing ADAS being there. We're seeing a lot of applications that are going to leverage data coming from the car. Yeah. The only issue right now is the shortage of silicon, right? So which basically reduce significantly the budget of the autonomous and connected car industry right now, right? Because just I'm seeing people are slowing down their investment because of that.
We have to work through that. We have to work through all the supply chain dynamics, and they're hitting all of us in different ways, but a very good point. So I have one last question for you.
Okay.
And that question is, Philippe, if you could be one superhero, who would it be, and you could have one AI superpower, what would it be?
I'm French, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to use a French superhero. His name is Asterix. And for those who don't know Asterix is this, is the most French people you ever meet, right? So he lives in a small village. And he's surrounded by he's a Gaul, right? And he lives during the Roman Empire, and he's surrounded by Romans. And he has this magic potion that basically enables him to kick Roman's ass all the time.
I like it.
And so, and the good news is that he has stories, right? So he goes in each countries, and he basically discovers those countries, and he basically helps them, right? So for instance, with the British, he's the one who brought tea to the British. He's the one who brought French fries to the Belgians.
Okay.
So he's kind of this very famous guy who did all those type of things. And he's very funny. If you don't know, you should read one of those cartoons. It's really nice. And then I think for me, the AI superpower that I would need is that I would love to have more is this ability to focus my mind and to just be able to just get the thing done that I need to get done. I feel like because the world is becoming smaller and smaller, we have more and more opportunity to be distracted. I am fairly easily distracted, let me put it this way.
Philippe mentioned something key. He talked about French fries, which are very popular in the US, but he said the superhero brought the French fries to the Belgium, right? So
yes, exactly.
That's the key right there. So, I have to say thank you, Philippe, for your insight and feedback today. It's truly appreciated. On behalf of the BrainChip team, we want to thank all of our listeners, investors, analysts, employees, and everyone that's just interested in learning more about AI and BrainChip. We truly appreciate all of your passion and support. Our podcast series will continue until our next podcast. We wish everyone to stay healthy, happy, and most importantly, stay out of trouble.
Thanks for listening to the BrainChip podcast. Please remember to rate and review on your favorite podcast platform.